Hey everybody, welcome to our new show called Therapist Take, and we're going to talk about the Karen phenomenon, so don't go anywhere. Hey everybody, welcome to, I always want to say Recovery TV because that's what we've always done for so long now.
Right, the habit.
Right, so this is Therapist Take, and this is kind of a new concept to our live broadcast that Carrie and I have done, and we've kind of always wanted to do something like this a little bit, right? And so let's just talk about a little bit the concept, a little bit. So, we wanted to get more in dialogue with each other and talk, because some of our best insights, even whether we're consulting cases or we're just talking about the phenomenons going on in life, come in those conversations, so I'm sure many of you can relate to that, to people that you like to have those dialogues with. And so one thing I feel like that is just that I don't want to brag, but that we're fairly good at with each other is just critically thinking issues, and I mean, that's our job.
That's our job, right?
As mental health professionals, is to critically think through issues and try to help people figure out what's going on, so we can help find solutions.
Right. Or live with that there aren't solutions.
Or live with the reality that there aren't.
Right.
You're right. So, and we're definitely not going to be finding solutions.
No,
in this.
Probably not.
Right. But, in our previous shows, and we're still going to do some mental health stuff here.
Absolutely.
In our YouTube channel, Recovery TV. We're still going to make sure that we cover a lot of different mental health things in recovery, or relational health things. So we're still going to do that, but we thought we'd broaden a little bit and just kind of tackle some of the things just going on in the world or in our culture. And if we didn't watch the news the night before or something, we'll just come up with something.
Well, we're kind of turning the camera on what we're doing as we go past each other's offices anyways.
Right.
Because we've known each other for a long time, and even our group here as therapists, we are, in between or at lunch or whatever, we're talking about stuff, right? And I think therapists talking are often critically thinking and offering different perspectives, just because that's the way we've been trained, and that's what we do all day. And so in a way, this is kind of just a glimpse into probably what we're doing anyways. Right.
And I think what's interesting too is that it's not like when you become a therapist, you cash in your non-therapist brain.
Sure.
But it's more like you added another part of you to the equation. Sure. So there are definitely those times when we're talking about certain things that we're very much not being a therapist, thinking like therapists, thinking like, hurt people or reactive people or frustrated people with what's going on. But then I feel like the more we start, I mean, that might be how our dialogues start.
Right.
And then we always, most of the time, find ourselves gradually moving into like, all right, the little therapist comes in. I'm sure this drives my kids nuts. In fact, Liam has said, "You're doing it again, Dad." That's like his saying now. "You're doing it again, Dad," where he's calling me out on being too much of a therapist-minded person, and So anyways, we're going to do it again in here, but hopefully too, like we can share a little bit more of just the parts of us that maybe aren't seen in session, and like, we have frustrations too, and things that pick at us or chip away at us, and but one thing that I think is something that I have valued is just being able to critically think through these issues. For some reason, that helps me. For others, that might not. I don't know.
Right. I think it definitely helps us, and so I guess there's hopefully the secondary impact of it helping people who are watching.
Right, and you know what? I think you saying that word "hopefully," I think that's why it helps me, because when you're in a profession, in mental health isn't the only profession that's like this, but when you're in a profession wherein you're either experiencing directly or vicariously, like we do, the traumas and the
Sure.
darkness of other people's lives day in and day out, sometimes it can feel a little hopeless.
Sure.
Sure. But through the avenue of critically thinking situations, I think it can really restore that hope. It's kind of a double-edged sword, or a two-sided coin in some ways. On one side, it's like, through critical thinking, you realize nothing is really simple. Mm-hmm. But if things can be simply restored, if it was just simple to just restore something that's broken, that means something could just be simply broken, too. So I think that realizing that things aren't simple, sometimes it's like, well, there's a road of uncertainty that's involved in that, and that's not necessarily super encouraging for a lot of people.
Sure.
But there's a road, right? There's also a road. There's a path.
Sure.
Things don't have to be broken forever.
Right.
And so that's my take on it.
Okay.
There's
the first one.
The first therapist take on the therapist take on therapist.
So meta.
Yeah. All right. So we hope that that gives you some insight into what this is going to be about. So,
right.
And so we decided to take a topic that I think, as you see, as we talk more about it, you're gonna see kind of the serious side of it. Right. But on the surface, I think maybe we picked it just because it's very popular in our culture, and it's kind of fun to some degree, unless it's happening to you, right? Right. Okay, and that's the Karen phenomenon. So,
all right, share what that is to you, Josh.
Okay. Well, let me start with the origins of it, because I learned this I learned it a little bit before we decided to do this episode. I know you just learned this like yesterday or this morning or something. But it was in the just kind of researching the question of where did it start? Right. Do you remember Bye Felicia?
Yeah.
Do you remember where it came from?
I know it came from a movie, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's from Friday.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. I thought that's what it was.
Where Ice Cube's ex-girlfriend keeps showing up. Her name's, or I can't remember if it's not his ex. I think it's some other character. Her name's Felicia, and he's just like, bye Felicia, and that kind of came on scene and was used. I think people still use it to some degree, but bye Felicia is more like it's dismissal. Okay. It's not an insult to you, right? If someone's like, bye Felicia, it's like, I don't want to talk to you.
Done.
Yeah, it's still kind of rude, right? I mean, it's not a very kind thing to say to somebody. But Karen definitely carries a lot more weight with it now, and I think that we're going to show you guys this clip from Dane Cook. It's generally believed that it originated from this bit that Dane Cook did, and we're just going to play for you guys an audio clip to get kind of the idea of it. I think I should have looked up the year, but I want to say it was around 2005 or 2007.
Oh, okay.
But I don't remember the term.
Gaining steam,
right?
Recently.
More recently. So we'll go ahead and play that clip for you guys.
There is one person in every group of friends that nobody fucking likes. Example: Karen is always a douchebag. When she's not around, you just look at each other and go, God, Karen!
So I don't know why he chose the name Karen. It probably wouldn't have been the name I chose, and I'm not going to pick one because I don't want to insult anybody with that name that's watching.
Right.
But I bet you money that you and I have the same name, but we probably... Let's not give those clues, because people would be like, you can't say that and then not tell us.
Right, right.
But all of you out there, too, probably, you probably think of, there's probably a name you would pick, right? So I don't know why he chose Karen. And I'm not really even real sure if that's really where it all started, or if it's some kind of coincidence that happened, right? And then, of course, in that, you saw on that on the video screen, I think, is that Kate?
Kate Goslin.
Kate Goslin, right? So she kind of became the meme, the first meme of Karen, whereas this one person that says Karenicity, which I think is a kind of funny concept too. So, so you asked a question like, what does it mean to me? So I'm going to say me, and then you tell me for you. Okay. So to me, Karen means a lot of things now, but let's just like, if we just back up like a year ago, I would say that a Karen would refer to a privileged white female that is mean. I don't know, reactive, mean, like making mountains out of molehills. I mean, but I think really, the key component is the privilege showing through. So it's always seemed like it was someone who might be considered a little well-to-do, and then looking down upon people who aren't as privileged as they are, But it always seemed to kind of be geared toward white women, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute too.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that way anymore. I think it's evolved. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I guess the way I've thought of it, especially from the negative perspective, is somebody who is kind of trying to have status over somebody, trying to, have power over and get their ways over people who are less of power. Another way of referring to people that are acting very entitled and ridiculous.
Right.
I think mountains out of molehills makes sense. And kind of also it had this selfish, narcissistic, I'm more important than anybody else vibe at the core of it, right?
Yeah, definitely some narcissism involved there.
Sure.
But it's also like losing your mind a little bit, in a certain situation. So when you say like it's evolved some, like how have you seen, like what are you referring to?
Well, I guess that when it first came about, just my personal observation of it was it was a funny way, right, to describe somebody or some situation that seemed silly or ridiculous. It was humorous. I think, of course, as a feminist, for a minute though, why is something narcissistic, selfish, over the top going to be ascribed to females?
Right.
And I think that's where I've started to see the meaning shift as far as comfort level in using that perspective, and then kind of the class and I guess what would we say, ethnicity. That started to feel, I don't know, I started to have conflicting feelings about it.
Right. So we were talking about this a little bit before, so just so you guys know, we're not going to come into this completely blind. Like
right.
We do chat a little bit about what the concept, but so that we kind of have an idea of where this is going. But that's the piece that really made me kind of take a step back before buying into like this cultural phenomenon. I still get a little uncomfortable with it.
Sure.
Because even though it has evolved some, like basically anybody can be a Karen at this juncture, right? But it's still, the name is still mostly attributed to females, to women, and even in the attempt to make it about men, you'll hear people say, "Oh, this is a male Karen,"
right?
Or they'll say Darren, which rhymes with Karen.
It does make me laugh.
I mean, I'm not saying there's not a part of me that has kind of enjoyed this experience,
acknowledgement of this,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, like just
right.
Like it's more. It's not even really out of amusement. It's more out of like, is this really happening?
Right.
Right. So yeah, that piece of it, and I truly, as a guy, I don't know if it's okay to get involved, and I have to some degree. I don't want to like I need to be authentic
right.
here.
There are times that person who never
but I definitely have held back to a large extent on just saying like you're a Karen or this is a Karen,
right.
Because it's just there's something about it. It just feels like it's not really helping the feminist movement,
right?
You know,
right. Well, I think that's the hard part about this, right? Is that it is calling attention to something that I think is important. Why do people think they get to use their status, right, to get more things to keep them even higher on the totem pole, right?
There's no question about that. So there are some mixed emotions.
Absolutely, but again, you know, ascribing it to one group of people,
right?
Oh, that's when again I start to get that. Oh, I don't like that limiting space that we're putting people in.
Yeah, and the group that is mostly concerning for me are women.
Sure,
that's the group. Sure. Like it's not necessarily any ethnic group or religious group or anything like that. It's mainly just like women have worked really hard to get where they are, and there's still a long ways to go. And I definitely don't want to be on the wrong side of history on something like this, right? Because it just got everybody stirred up, and everybody just jumped on board. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, that probably wasn't good. So it's just something, and it's just something for anybody watching, like maybe to take a step back and with any cultural phenomenon like this, and and ask yourself, is do I really want to be a part of that?
Right. Or how do I use this in a way that's helpful, that makes me grow? Like, I think another important thing to say is that we've probably had our own moments where we
that's the other piece.
Hit the nail on the head with this phenomenon, right?
Yes.
And to have the awareness, for me, when it recently happened, a few months ago, I had the awareness of going, oh my gosh, this is a Karen moment. But the train had already left the station for me. And so it just went all the way through.
Yeah.
Right? But I guess at least nothing good comes from after you say at least.
I mean,
but at least I knew that I had been, as you had said, lost my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that, of course, whenever you have the experience of the thing that you feel bad about, it should bring you to feeling more collectively connected to humans instead of separate or better than others.
Yeah. I think for me, I'd be looking around going, I hope no one caught that on camera.
Or no one knows me.
Right.
Yeah.
So at least no one filmed it. That's what I'd be thinking. At least nobody filmed
There's
that.
There's an at least.
But I think you make a good point that we all have it in us.
Yeah.
And I think if you haven't had a Karen moment, then you haven't lived long enough, or you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, or your poor self-assessment skills. Right. Mm-hmm.
You're so nice.
I know. I'm a therapist.
But I think that's the other piece too that's made me pause with it is like, I definitely have had some moments. I will say, and this isn't because I'm somebody that's super put together or anything, it is not common for me to do that, but that's not because because I'm the poster child of mental health or emotional health or emotional reactivity. A lot of that has to do with just a discomfort with that type of emotional experience. So, but it has happened for sure. I've had my own version of Karen moments where I'm like, that wasn't good, and again, thank God nobody was recording.
No one, as far as you know.
As far as I know, it could be something out there of me just erupting.
Right.
But I think that's the other thing too, is like, what if, because one of the things we're going to talk about down the road is cancel culture.
Yeah.
And so, how many people are being blasted all over YouTube or Facebook or wherever, the one time that they did it.
I know.
The one time that they had a weak moment, and also the other thing too, we don't know what's going on in their lives.
Right.
And I do think that definitely, some people are having mental health crises, some people are in relational crises, and some people just had a bad day.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And they just, it doesn't make it okay to take that out on somebody, but I also don't think it makes it okay for us to make this one thing who they are.
Blast it on or glue it onto that person's identity.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know that over the years, our culture has had its various ways of canceling. Yeah. And different, I think it's just seen much more now because of media and how social media works. But, even before social media was like it was, I mean, I've heard the expression for years of, that it takes, a lot of time to build a reputation, and that can be ruined in a moment. In a moment's time. So
sure.
So
and I also feel like we have to be in defense of the actual name Karen.
Yeah.
Because very, 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 very few people pick their name.
Yeah.
Right? And so I just also feel knowing people with that lovely name, that I would hate to be my name to be associated with something that is this global and this negative.
Yes.
And have no control over
so that. It's interesting you brought that up because I didn't know if I was going to bring that up or not, because I have felt bad for I have friends whose name are Karen or is Karen. But I think we can all probably think of somebody who has the name Karen, and I do feel bad that I don't know. I have never asked them because I'm afraid to, right? But I was listening to someone talk about that and saying that their approach was that they don't feel bad for people whose name is Karen, because their perspective was that they could rally together to say, we are going to make it a mission to give Karen a new identity. To say that this Karen phenomenon that's happened does not represent all Karens. And that there is a group of Karens that are activists, good people, trying to make a difference in the world, and they will stand up to exactly the same people that are being labeled as Karens. And so I thought it was just an interesting take on that.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
You were kind of touching on something that I thought would be a good way to kind of round this out. Oh, by the way, before we get into that, the Karen restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
Karen's diners.
Which I didn't know existed until the research either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw this on something I was probably watching on YouTube or the news or something, that there is, gosh, I bet there's like 20 locations now. Most of them are in the UK or Australia, or, and they, there's like one in the US I saw, but what was interesting to me is that they don't, I feel like the Karen phenomenon hasn't been around that long. That's what it feels like to me. Maybe, but there's like a ton of restaurants. So this phenomenon is being capitalized on.
Had quite impact, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think their slogan is something like bad service, good food, or something like that. And so
is it supposed to give Karens a platform to be a Karen? Is that kind of what it is?
I think the people, you go there and you get your wait staff, the whole people, all the people that work there are Karens. And you just have to go to YouTube and watch some clips. I was going to put some on here, but I was like, I'll just let you go watch them, because it's pretty tough. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah,
I don't
think that where you want to be spending recreational time. Yeah.
You have to. I mean, I think there's even a part of us when we know people are joking.
Right.
Like it's still like, like I don't like that.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's one in St. Louis. So maybe if we ever pass.
Ever in St. Louis, yeah.
So the thing that you were kind of touching on was kind of, that maybe some kind of silver lining. Like, what can we learn from this?
Yeah, sure.
Like, has the Karen phenomenon, is there a positive side to it? Has it taught us anything?
Sure.
What can we learn? Neocortex stuff.
What's that reference, Josh? In case people aren't neocortex.
The neocortex, the part of our brain that makes us human, basically.
Right.
The part of our brain that learns.
That critically thinks.
Yeah, critically thinks, right.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit, but I'm okay with using this concept to help us all evaluate how we treat other people, how we acknowledge status and privilege in our daily, weekly interactions. I think that's helpful. I think examining your own bias, thinking about how you manage irritation, frustration, disappointment. I think that's all. I think that's got a helpful aspect to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that as much as there might be some things that need to change with it or evolve or whatever. I think a lot people are thinking about it. I mean, just by having a word to give it,
a phrase.
A phrase. Even my kids are have a word to attribute to this fear that they have sometimes, where they're like, Dad, I just don't want you to be a Karen, okay? So if I'm gonna go up to their school and talk to a teacher about this, so they just don't be a Karen.
Right. Don't embarrass me. Don't cross the line. Right.
Right. So it does. I do think it's just got everybody thinking about not only their own behavior, but how their behavior affects other people.
Sure.
Sure. I actually love that part about it with my kids, because I don't know if my children would have the words to articulate. He's like, I just don't want you to embarrass me.
Right.
I don't want you to act a fool.
Right.
Right.
I don't want you to pull privilege. I don't want you to use anger to intimidate. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they can say, Dad, I don't want you to be a Karen.
Sure.
And we all know what that means.
Right. True. Yeah. Maybe if it wasn't a name, it would be easier. We wouldn't have these. If it wasn't humanized with a name, maybe we'd be more comfortable with it if it was a phrase, right?
Yeah.
A descriptor.
Well, see, I was thinking too, like maybe a dog's name, but I'm like,
no.
See,
immediately, no.
We can't do that to dogs.
No, I don't want to feel conflicted about dogs. Yeah. I like that being one simple thing.
They're
sweet.
Good people.
Right.
They're the best people.
True.
Yeah, so we can't do that. But but maybe it could evolve into something. But I would guess that nobody's naming their babies Karen.
I bet that baby name list is it's not in the top 10.
But maybe Felicia will make a comeback on the baby name.
Maybe things just get used up. Maybe they're too much of a stamp of the time period and people are ready to move on.
We get Flo back in.
Okay, you work on that.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much
that's our take.
That's our take on the Karen phenomenon. And so we hope that there was something that you guys took away from it as well, and you kind of got a glimpse of how we're going to do this on various topics, and that are maybe even more lighthearted. Like I said, it doesn't feel lighthearted anymore after diving into it like that. Right. But definitely some things that might even be deeper, a little more difficult, and we might even disagree on some things.
Has that happened?
I don't think so. No. I'm pretty sure you've agreed with everything else. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how my memory says.
You wish. I know.
That's just how I remember.
Sure, I know. How can we argue with your perspective?
Lots of yeses, lots of head nods. See, like that.
I'm just doing what your memory recalls.
Good. That way I
won't challenge
you.
I won't challenge you too much, right?
Right. I don't want to change.
Okay.
But we appreciate everybody who has tuned in and watched this and has supported us along the way. So
thank you.
We do plan on doing this right now about every other Friday, I think, and then we'll have our other shows, live shows, which include Are You in Session with Josie and Mary. And next week is going to be Hannah's Counseling Corner, and which I'm going to be her first guest on.
Right.
And we're going to talk about what her show is going to be about. And so really look forward to that. So
yeah.
But thank you.
Thank you.